Welcome to the Local Farmer Podcast, where we invite you to join us on our farming journey. Whether you're a seasoned farmer or you're just getting started, we are here to learn and grow together. Our goal is to help encourage, inspire, and equip the local farmer. So let's grab our boots and let's dig in. Got a special, I would say probably short, just kind of a overview episode to talk about Jamaica. Just got back from Jamaica, so we're going to unpack that. But before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, all of our social medias, and stay updated with all the other podcasts. So there you go. We're going to dive right in.
Yep, let's get with it.
Dig
in.
right into the conversation of Jamaica. So I got back just a little while ago, and another mission trip, another thing that we're doing for our church, and had an opportunity to visit like a bunch of different farms, and even the place that we were staying at had a farm on it. So unfortunately didn't get a podcast while I was there, but I was able to speak with a bunch of farmers while I was there. So that was kind of neat to kind of just hear how they farm there. It's pretty cool.
And you know, I've been to Jamaica one time. Of course, we went on a vacation situation, but it's really tropical and lush, but it's mountainous too.
Yeah. It wasn't what I thought it would be, to be honest with you. Like we didn't go to the beach. Yeah. Like we kind of stayed in the mountains, but getting up there was a trek.
Well, it's a lot more like East Tennessee than you would imagine.
Yeah.
It just has that tropical feel and everything there. But
it kind of felt like Smoky Mountains.
Yeah.
Like it kind of did.
Everywhere you go, it's hills and turns.
Yeah.
And it's
when it comes to the landscape of it. Now, obviously,
the landscape.
The wildlife and the plants and all that stuff looks different.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to paint a picture for anybody that hasn't been there. I mean, you can go online and look, but it's still like driving the roads, other than, they drive crazy over there too. But, a lot of, when you think of Caribbean islands, you think of, kind of a flat island beach all around. But Jamaica is really, and you have some beautiful shoreline.
Yeah.
But it quickly goes into steep mountain roads and twisty turns.
Roads, by the way, are like one-lane roads. They're not. It's crazy how they drive there, bro. I'm telling you, I saw a truck coming at me head on. Luckily, I wasn't driving, but head on, and scared the crap out of me. I mean, at the last, they're playing chicken when they're driving. It's crazy. But it was really neat being able to talk with some people. Actually, one of our drivers, his name was Lawrence, and I got to talk with him. He is a farmer, and on one of the drives, I debated on doing a podcast while I was driving. However, just what I said before this, I didn't want to distract him in any way. So I just had a conversation just to get some ideas. And what was really cool was a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do, they're already doing. And I think it's not out of a choice. I think it's out of just what they do. Yeah. So like grass-fed, like all that type of stuff. Actually, I saw both. I saw both. I saw what we want to do, what we're striving to do, and then what we're striving to get away from. Mm-hmm. One with the cows and how they're raising cows, but also even the same people. They were doing pigs how we don't want to do them,
right? And
that's on a slab of concrete. Well kept,
very clean.
Very clean. I showed you, showed you some videos on it, but like well kept. The pigs looked great, and I mean, the ladies just had some babies, so I mean, obviously there was some weight loss there, and but other than that, they looked healthy. They looked great. However, it was in the environment that we were trying to get away from. We want to do pasture raised, and we want to do on property. They had them in, concrete slab and all that stuff. So it was kind of unique to see that. But anyway, going back to my conversation with Lawrence, driving with him, he one unique conversation was the difference between how they do okra and how we do okra. Like he just fries okra, not fries, puts okra in a pan and like tries to cook it and never been able to cook it correctly. And so I corrected him and showed him how to do fried okra.
Like put it in some cornmeal and flour?
That's what I told him to do. And he's like, "Oh, we didn't know that." And it all came about. We were driving up a road, and they call this road like Okra Road. And I'm like, "Why do they call it Okra Road?" He said, "Because it gets really slimy." And he said, "So we don't really eat okra because it's so slimy." And I said, "Bro, I'm gonna tell you how to eat okra." And then, so anyway, just had some really good conversations with him just about how he grew up farming, cows, pigs, all of that stuff, and the difference between. Yet it's not different. Like there are obviously some differences, but it was really unique just hearing his life and upbringing and seeing how they're doing cows. It was really cool.
Well, speaking of cows, you sent me a picture.
Yeah.
And that was the place you were staying, correct?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
What kind of cows were those? Do you know?
Bro, brown. He told me when I drove in, and my memory's not what it used to be, but they were all the same, and they just had they had at least 30.
Was it like a native cow? Nothing.
It was
any kind of breed that we have here?
No. I think it was I think it was like just a popular cow there. Like we say Black Angus. It's like a brown something or whatever.
No, they kind of had a body build like a Holstein or something. They were a little bony on the hips, but I don't know if that was.
That didn't sound familiar, but it was, they just have babies and they just do a great job with it. They just move them around on the property.
It's funny. You see countries like that and you think, well, they're underdeveloped, whatever, but it's interesting. If you research regenerative farming, you go to Will Harris down at White Oak Pastures down in Bluffton, Georgia.
Yeah.
He talks about how in his book and some of the podcasts, he talks about how we got to where we are.
Yeah.
And a lot of it came along with, like during World War II and thereafter, you had people come by and go, "Oh, put this on your property and watch your grass grow." And I mean, it works. The chemicals work. But at the same time, now we're starting to see where, hey, for health reasons, we need to circle back around and do more naturally. And that's what they're doing all along because they never had access to all that.
They never moved away from that. And
right.
I mean, I'm not a medical person, but obviously everyone in different areas have different things they're dealing with. But I would say some of the stuff that we don't, that they're not dealing with, that is involving food.
Right.
We are dealing with because of we care about quicker, faster, bigger, larger, and straight to the market, like as quick as we can.
Yeah.
And there's a cost to that.
There is.
And so, I mean, by going there, it was very different then, and we've had a conversation since about Africa. It was different than Africa in a lot of ways from, I didn't ever go to a property that had 30, 40 cows on it.
Right.
I only went to a property that might have 2 or 3, and they're used for milk. They're not used for meat. Here, they are used to sell to get money for the mission that they're doing in Jamaica. Yeah. So that was kind of a unique experience too. Just a different type of culture as well. Very similar to what we're doing in moving cows around and the fencing. We recently had a conversation about fencing. So.
Did they have fencing? So in Africa, you said they didn't have any. Did they have fencing there?
Perimeter.
Okay.
Perimeter fence. And they would just move them around. They had different sections. You could tell that, like, just naturally where like a road would cut for like a driveway on the property. And they had 100 acres, by the way.
Oh, wow.
So how the property would cut, it would naturally create these like little paddock areas. And they would actually physically go in and like, move one and they would all follow. But all they had was like a perimeter fence.
Oh, wow. Well, so when I went to Jamaica, I remember seeing a guy literally like walking down the roadway and he was grazing his animals.
Yeah.
On the side of the road.
Yeah.
But he was almost like a shepherd, just watching them, maintaining them, because I asked about them. This was years ago, but, and that's what he said they were doing. They were doing that. And I thought, well, that'd be cool in the States, but it wouldn't work with our traffic.
No, but what you just described was Africa. So I didn't see much of that in Jamaica.
No, I've seen it in Jamaica.
Yeah,
But I haven't
so
been to Africa.
obviously in different places.
Right.
But in Africa, I saw that more
Okay.
common than in Jamaica. But um, yeah, so I mean, like it was all around good trip. Not much, obviously, to report back, like in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, this is something revolutionary that I'm gonna change. But I'll say this, I'll say one thing that we did that I thought was very unique, and it just honestly it hurts your head a little bit if you start thinking about it. But we went to a place called Deaf Can Coffee. Um, Side note, we went there to a deaf village. That's the mission that we were a part of, was a deaf village. And so some of the activities that we did was wrapped around that. But there's a coffee company there called Deaf Can, and they're a coffee company. They have storefronts, and they're deaf. You know, that's kind of it's their thing. But they went on to tell us the story of how they created their company, which was such an eye-opening thing. And 5 seconds, this isn't about farming, but um, what was really unique about them talking about being deaf was people feel like that they come over here to try to fix us, but we don't need to be fixed. God's already given us a language. We just have to learn it,
Right.
and we can use our situation for His glory. And I thought that was really unique and cool.
That is cool.
But here's where it hurts your head. Think about a coffee bean. So I went to an area where there was a bunch of coffee beans, and you know, it's this bush, right? This tree, bush, whatever. Think about how you make coffee. What is coffee? Coffee is a bean, right?
Right.
But it's a process to get to that bean to be coffee.
So it grows on a bush?
Yeah.
And then they have to pick it?
Yeah.
One bean at a time?
Yeah, one bean at a time. And then what do you do after that?
I mean, I grind mine.
Yeah, but what you're describing right now is a process that's already been started of taking it, of roasting it, of like what I'm getting at though is how in the world back in the day did they figure out, oh yeah, we take this bean, then we strip it, and then we throw it in a pan, and then we roast it, and then we can store it for this a period of time, and then we grind it up and we can make this drink. That's crazy to think about. Chocolate is another story too, but it's just crazy to think that the process to create coffee, to get to that place of taking something off a bush.
Somebody had to figure that out.
But how do you figure out you're onto something?
I don't know.
That's just weird.
You just told them how to do okra, and they didn't know how to do it. They didn't eat it.
That's true, but someone in this world had to go through a process of like we talk about like, oh, we'll figure it out. But like this is something that I don't know. That like I'm saying, this really hurt my head just thinking about. And maybe it's not hurting your head, but like I'm like, go back to thinking about, you know, you're onto something when you're like, okay, well, I picked this. Okay, cool. It just doesn't taste good. Well, for me, I'll just go, this isn't good, and walk away from it.
Right. Well,
I wouldn't think, oh, what if I take that and I strip it down? What if I take that and I ferment it? Or what if I take that and I roast it? What if I take that? I don't think that way. And I guess maybe because, I don't know. I'm sure you're going to look up after you hear this podcast and be like, how did they invent coffee? And you're going to be like, that. Okay, that makes total sense. That guy knew nothing what he's talking about. But there are things that on a farm, there are things that you do that we're trying to, like, this whole project that we're doing is how do you get back to the basics? And we've overcomplicated something and strip it down to, there's no reason to complicate something. It's natural. Let's just do it that way.
That's true.
So that's kind of a little bit of what my mindset was when I was thinking about the coffee bean. I was like, dang, they had to go through a whole process to get to this. And it makes sense why, like, the product that we have now, it's delicious. It's coffee. We all drink it. It's great and everything. But there was a process to get there. And that process now, in the hindsight, makes sense to get there.
Yeah.
But like, how often do we go and try to farm a certain way because our grandfather farmed that way, and in that mindset it makes sense. But the reality is, there's other ways to do it.
So I'm going to answer some questions for you real quick.
Hopefully,
God gives somebody the answer to that coffee.
That's true,
because He made coffee.
That's right.
So then he knows what it's good for, what He invented. So he give that, and he don't give it to everybody because then we'd all be the same, wouldn't need each other.
You're right.
Okay. Number two, ask yourself, is the way we farm in the United States and other countries to use products outside of nature are those of God? And I'm not getting religious on people here if they use chemicals, because I use chemicals, especially in my horse fields and stuff like that. I'm not eating my horse. So, but that's where I want to get back. We want to get back to with HD Farms is eating naturally, God given, and not putting extra chemicals in. But I think that we need to rethink the farming. We need to think outside the box. We need to slow down here in this country and think, are we doing it the right way? We're doing it the productive way where we can do more, faster, better, or better, but more and faster. And we've done that over the years for profit.
Yep. And what we're trying to think, not people are doing something wrong. That's not really what we're not saying that if you're farming a certain way with chemicals or whatever, like you are the enemy or anything like that. That's not it at all. It's actually, we're just trying to figure out, hey, how can we get back to that root? But actually, I'll ask you, it's not a question, it's more of a statement, but it's like, I believe, this sounds, bro, we're definitely going down a spiritual avenue here, but it's what we know.
Yeah.
It's our life, so it's what we know. We
tie it all back.
Yeah. So I would say this, when you sit there, and I know this is a struggle because I've had conversations with you and your wife, but like if you look and you go, okay, we believe God can perform miracles today. The Bible says it's the same God yesterday as he is today, right? So we believe that he can perform miracles. Mm-hmm. But then you start thinking about, when medicine comes into play, does that mean it's a lack of faith? So what I'm saying,
it's tricky.
It's tricky because when you start saying, hey, we have medicine for animals, we have chemicals and things like that. Chemicals is actually a bad word to use, but things to help grow an animal or anything like that, you sit there and go, well, is that a bad thing though? Because I think what we play in our mind is saying, well, we believe God can do, but we never think about, well, maybe the fact that God allowed that doctor, guided his hands to do that surgery, to perform that miracle through that doctor. And I'm going to go right back to farming with that, as saying there are things that have been created to help farmers progress in a positive way.
I agree. So, and if you read your Bible, it also talks about nothing in abundance. So all these products could have been brought to somebody's knowledge by the Lord as well. I'm totally agree with that, because we need the feedlots, and we need the grain to get these, because we have a lot of people to feed.
Yeah.
We're doing something different naturally, because that's just, the problem isn't that you eat beef from a cow that's had antibiotics and that's eat grass that's had weed and feed put on it and all that. That's not the problem. Problem is when you do that daily.
Yeah.
All the time. So I don't think it's not like we're eating a poison every day that bothers us. God made our bodies to filter that out. It's when we do it every day. So what we're wanting to do, and what we learn from places like Africa and Jamaica, is that they still do it the old way, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's the way we want to do it. So I love these trips you go on, because we see that and we're like, well, why don't we get away from that? So we got away from it for the production part of it. But we as Americans need to instill some of this clean beef, clean pork, clean chicken, clean vegetables. I just think it's important to have a mix up.
And we have so here's the other thing with talk about Jamaica and Africa and relating it back to what we're doing. We have it a little simpler because both and, right? But simpler because we have access to the other.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, we have access to this. Now that gives us the opportunity to try the other.
Right.
Versus other places that this is all they know. This is all they do. So for us, we shouldn't take for granted at all the fact that, like, we have access to meat. We have access to all this stuff right here to allow us to be able to try something new. So so with our farm, being able to look at different places, like another place I'm going to go, hopefully get a podcast. If not, we'll talk about it like we're doing today with El Salvador. But being able to look at all these different places in a brand new light now that we're doing this farm, being able to look at how other people do it around the world, it's just a great reminder for us, for you and me, really just, hey, what we're doing, others are doing and they're able to do it. So it's not impossible. So,
I love those experiences.
So we didn't have a long conversation today, but it was a conversation really just wrapped around, hey, what we're doing is just a great reminder of like, we need to keep doing it. We've had some struggles.
Mm-hmm. We'll get into those.
We'll get into that in another podcast. But, we've had some trials, tribulations to walk through and learning. Yeah. We've learned a lot the past 2 weeks alone of
what not
to do and what hurrying up looks like.
Yeah.
What hurrying up looks like. So anyway, once again, a quick podcast today. Hopefully you went on a run or you listened to this in the car and you're like, man, that's what I needed, just that little taste. And, we didn't mean for it to go the direction it did with, talking about God, but that's who we are. And that's the conversations that are going to come up. But yeah, make sure you like, you subscribe to all those things. But yeah, that's our conversation.
Yeah. Had a good one.
Yeah, there you go. So, hey, thank you so much for listening to the Local Farmer Podcast.